This episode is brought to you by QBD Books.
Hi, I'm Sunny.
And I'm Ali.
And you're listening to Booksmart.
Booksmart is a podcast for readers who go absolutely feral for women's stories. The book lovers with never-ending TBR stacks and a crippling fear of falling behind in their annual Goodreads challenge.
If you want deliciously bookish discourse that's as silly as it is academic, then welcome. This is the podcast for you. So go on, get comfortable, make yourself a tea.
Or a hot chocolate.
And let's turn the page together. Book club is back, baby.
Sing it again. Encore.
Book club is back, baby.
Okay, that's actually our jingle that we're now going to play at the start of every book club episode. Guys, we're doing it.
I'm totally sampling Let's Talk About Sex, baby. So don't sue me. But what's sexier than books? Book club. I don't see you at the club. Which club? The book club.
I never see you at the club.
Never see you at the club. Welcome back to Book Club. Post How to End a Love Story. We loved discussing books with y'all. And now we're diving back into another romance number.
This was initially meant to be our February episode, for context, why we chose
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Valentine's. We really did say it in the...
Yeah, we misled y'all.
Yeah, we did mislead you. The slate got a bit changed. Dates changed a little bit. But we'd already started reading, and this book is a great one to talk about. And we're like, you know what? We can talk about love any time of the year.
Because we love love. Also, though, what we don't love and apologize in advance for is that we are serving this to you hot off the press. We actually got to read And Now Back to You by BK Borison, thanks to Pan Mac, who sent us advance copies. Once this lands in your ears and your eyeballs, the book has probably only been out for about a week. Hopefully you're a fast reader like we are. If not, hopefully this encourages you to read it later on. But sorry, I know there was not a huge period of notice for this one.
Apologies for that. I kind of mostly chose this so I could have an excuse to get an art copy because I read First Time Caller last year and I really wanted to read the new one because I saw the curvy girl on the cover with a Harry Burns type sweater. Come on.
It's a very delightful cover.
They are beautiful.
Before we do get stuck into this read though, I want to ask you, Ali.
What have I been reading?
What have you been reading?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I actually have been reading a book, another one that actually doesn't come out until May. I apologize, but you know what? Put it on your TBRs. I got an arc of The Last Page by Katie Holt, and
I've not heard of that one.
Well, she also wrote She also wrote Not in My Book, which is sort of like if you took Gus and January from Beach Read and actually depicted them falling in love in the college years. That's more or less how I would describe that book. Set in New York. I really love it. I love the charming energy, and I think that she is good at not being over-reliant on references in order to make her, in order to endear her audiences to her and a couple.
That seems like preemptive shade.
That seems like that's just shade to everyone in the romance community who is naming every single book title after like a Taylor Swift lyric. I don't need every single Taylor Swift lyric, even the bad ones, to have a book counterpart. Apologies.
What's the word? I said preemptive shade. It seems like you're foreshadowing shade because I know that we're about to be talking about that.
Get an umbrella.
Yeah.
Not really. But yeah, really heavily enjoyed this book. Read it when it comes out in May. Katie is a fantastic writer. The dual POV I enjoy in her books. Honestly, highly recommend. How about you, Miss Sunny?
I am dabbling in my fantasy bag, which I don't do often. And it is a Australian fantasy debut. We are looking at The Ascension of Souls by Bronte Marie Wesson or Bronte Marie Wesson. My grandma is called Marie and it's spelled like that and everyone says Marie. So I have a real problem when people assume it's Marie because it'd be spelled otherwise. But I actually don't know how it's spelled in your case, so apologies. It is a really fun Aussie debut. I think like the fantasy space is so popular, but I feel like rarely do we have big fantasy titles written by Australian authors, which I guess is like, you could argue is not necessarily that major because it's set in a fantasy world. It's not going to be referencing like Bondi Beach and Surrey Hills.
But also you could say that of most genres, that we actually don't get major Aussie releases or for like pretty much any genres as a whole.
And I feel like when we do, it's because their selling point is that they're distinctly Aussie and therefore they're usually like fiction or non-fiction, but set very much in the real world, their localities.
Well, that's something I'm struggling with at the moment because I'm currently writing a book, crazy, shocking to so many people, I'm sure. And I'm actually trying to figure out if I want to keep it localized to be Melbourne or if I want it to be international because that feels like I'm limiting myself less. So I'm really trying to figure that out at the moment and dapple in that, because Aussie stories somehow don't feel universal to international audiences, even other Western audiences like in America and whatnot. I always think about like how little Heartbreak High is talked about in like the teen TV canon, yet it is perfect for and ripe for these conversations. I will bring up Heartbreak High any chance I get. I apologize.
I did see the trailer for season 3 yesterday.
Maybe it'll encourage you to watch the show. Sunny and I getting into our first fight on camera.
This is not our first fight on camera. Someone clip up the multiple disagreements that we've
Ali
had.
clip up?
The listeners.
Someone. Ali.
The team Sunny. Sunny Hive stand up.
Alligators chomp chomp.
Sun rays. Sorry. That's actually, this is all lols. We do not take ourselves that seriously, please.
Wait, sorry. Actually.
Hold space. Okay, well, that's exciting that we've read these books.
We love reading.
We love reading. I mean,
famously.
Like, surprise, surprise, we've been reading. Curious to know what you've been reading. But if you're listening to this, I suspect you have been reading Miss B.K. Borison.
Because First Time Caller was a very big release last year. Everyone was very hyped for this. I think also because I think part of it definitely had to do with the fact that it wasn't like the stereotypical cartoon romance cover in the way you traditionally think of it, in terms of like an Icebreaker or Collide. I'm just thinking of like hockey ones right now. But this is like a very interesting new design. They are beautiful.
Sorry
beautiful
to
covers.
mess with the stack. Look at this.
I tell you. It is.
They're really
so
pretty.
Aesthetically pleasing. I like the holographic kind of chromy details. Shiny. Love shine. I'm a magpie. There you go. Sunny's modeling them for you. And so
if you're listening, you couldn't see that, but I was modeling it.
Sorry, I'm just
She's gonna make it pretty.
A question that I think is a great starting off point is, what makes a good love story?
Gugh. I mean, there are so many different things. I mean, what makes a good relationship? Like, everybody views it differently. We accept the love we think we deserve. # perks of being a wallflower. For me, what makes a good love story is I want to buy it. I want to believe it. I want characters to be fully fleshed out. I want to understand them as whole and single entities, but then I also want to understand why they are drawn to each other, why they work well together and why they don't. So for that reason, like insta love and like immediate attraction, soulmate type beat.
Yeah, what are some tropes that you really don't fuck with? I feel like
all of those.
So much of like the romance space
is defined by tropes.
I mean, if the Hunger Games came out nowadays, it'd be black cat, golden retriever.
Yeah.
He falls first, she falls harder. It would be marketed like that. And that's not me being disparaging on that. It's just saying that sometimes there are limitations in how much, context we can give these. But also at the same time, we do have our preferences.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an enemies to lovers.
I'm an enemies to love. This is going to be my spiel about enemies to lovers. And in order to understand why I love enemies to lovers, it also sheds a lot of light on why I strongly dislike things like love triangles, insta love, et cetera, because to me, insta love, it feels unearned. Like, how can you love somebody without knowing them? Love feels special when it's occurred because you've seen their shiny and not so shiny parts and you make the choice to stay. As Bell Hooks said, like, love is a verb. It's a process of doing, you know?
Beautiful. I always forget about how good that is.
I love Bell Hooks so much. Rest in peace. I am who I am because of you.
Bell Hooks, come on the show if only.
From the grave.
We've got to see
manifesting.
you, babe.
Get the Ouija board. No, I don't mess with Ouija boards. Love triangles, to me, it's like, well, and maybe this is very narrow-minded because it's not an experience that I've had, but it's like, well, if you could love somebody, oh God, this is going to sound like I'm shading like poly couples. Jesus Christ, I'm not. In the context of love triangles that are otherwise
Sonny's trying so hard not to get cancelled.
I don't want to be cancelled.
For being homophobic.
Like, at least let me be cancelled for something that was kind of funny, not something that was misinterpreted as being. Yeah. Did you say homophobic?
Yeah.
Is that homophobic to imply that poly relationships are inherently?
I mean, they're on the queer.
Homo?
I mean, they're on the queer spectrum.
I learn more every day. I love triangles. I'm like, if you could fall in love with somebody else, then you weren't really in love with me. It's like how we also always know that it's the second person in the love triangle that is the winner. Enemies to lovers is my favorite because, love that lasts has to be sustainable and truthful, and it's not always pretty. I love the idea that I can like absolutely vex someone You know, I can be the bane of their existence
and
still be the object of their desire. You know, like, I don't want this to be because you're in limerence with an idea of me, this perfect projection. Like, sure, that can get you through the door, but what's going to get you to stay? It's going to get you to stay at my bedside when I'm terminally
agree with
ill.
that, though, with friends to lovers. Because I like the idea. I said in our last episode, I like pathetic men who are like down bad for women in like straight romances. I like it when there's like one counterpart in a relationship who's like kind of more or less always been in love with the other. I think that is so fun to play with. Very much I will like Better Than the Movies is my favorite romance book out there. I think it's so charming. I love that Wes was always in love with Liz since they were like children. And I love that in a book, like in Ready or Not, people we meet on vacation to, you know, varying degrees of success, one might say. I like a friends to lovers for similar reasons, and that's also definitely the asexual in me, who's just like, I don't think I could ever love someone easily or quickly. If I ever was to fall in love, I think it would have to be, I keep on saying to people, I'm like, if I was to fall in love, it'd have to be like an over a decade long, like friends to lovers thing where they'd have to be down bad for me the entire time, and I'm just there being adorable and cute and asexual, and then eventually I realize I'm in love with them, because God knows where I land on the RA spectrum. That's a topic for another day. But yeah, we're not getting into that. It's not therapy.
I think both have similar patterns, right? And they both come with like a real understanding of one another and real genuine affection and history, right? But I like I think the passion and the messiness of Enemies to Lovers. With that said, my favorite romance book, similar to And Now Back to You could say is Enemies to Lovers adjacent, but I actually think neither excel in being enemies to lovers.
A lot of the time they're rivals or just dislike to lovers. Yeah. Enemies has to be like like full like arch nemesis. Like,
well, that's why I'd also say Enemies to Lovers is really hard to pull off.
Which in Not In My Book does exceptionally well, because they actively hate each other, and like that is the starting point for their relationship. They are bitter enemies, and it does that transition exceedingly well, hence why I bought it for you for your birthday last year. I
think it needs to be like frustrated to lovers or like misunderstood to lovers, really. Enemies is quite strong.
Okay. Well, what is your fave?
It's Book Lovers.
Duh. I knew it. I was about to say.
Book Lovers are Emily Henry. I don't know what like I was going to say what deep soul attachment that I have to this book. It's crazy.
But we do know.
I just literally like assassinated that trope. There is something about that speaks to me so deeply. I love that they make sense, they being Nora and Charlie. They feel real to me as individual characters. They feel real to me together. I understand why they're drawn to one another. What I love about it, though, is that the obstacles in them being together feels real. I can see that happening to a couple. I can see that genuinely being a reason to separate. I think I get quite frustrated when like authors build up what is meant to be this great and grand love, right? And then they're separated by like a small miscommunication or something so stupid. And it's like, well,
and I like when books are meta about that, like Wildfire by Hannah Grace, for example, like Russ and Rory, Russ and Rory, they will actually like have the thing where it's like, oh my God, we did it. We're the miscommunicators again. I love meta. You know, because I'm Arbed from Community, but with better clothing.
I don't understand the reference at all, but
Hence me being Arbed.
I am a huge over communicator, and I also am unwilling to let things go, and so and
you're impatient,
and I'm impatient. So I guess that explains for me why like Book Lovers is great, why I'm drawn to certain tropes and not to others, and why I had thoughts and feelings about the presence of tropes in this book.
Well, should we get into this book? What is
Did you say your favorite romance?
Better Than the Movies.
Yeah, you did. Love that book.
I'm trying to think. I literally had a whole giant list of all of my favorites. But honestly, we would be here all day if I wanted to talk about all of my favorite books, because I can wax so much poetic.
You could wax lyrical.
I could wax interpretive.
You could speak in tongues about it. Let's talk generally about our thoughts and feelings on And Now Back to You, maybe even starting with ratings.
Our ratings. I give this a solid 4 stars, which I think is a very good rating. And I think I gave First Time Caller similar, maybe 4.5 the first time I read it. But now, upon re-listening to it in the lead up to this, I re-listened, and I actually found myself occasionally like getting drawn out of the narrative and like kind of losing focus a bit, which never happens to me with listening to audiobooks. That just is never an occurrence I'm familiar with. So I think I'd probably bump that down to like a 3.5. I think it starts rather slow and gets better towards the end.
Down a whole star.
Yeah, I think it was around that. I'm not sure, but I think it would have been around that. And like, I really am charmed by it, but I think that we'll get into it. But I have a feeling there'll be a third one in the series that I'm going to like the most. What is your rating, Miss Sunny? And you also haven't read.
Yes, I haven't read First Time Caller. Ali did warn me that like I would be spoiled. I absolutely know from reading and now back to you like what the contents of book one were going to be. I'm happy with knowing in advance. I feel like a happily ever after to some extent is ensured.
And you famously love to read the second before you read the first because you still haven't read Every Summer After, but you've read One Golden Summer.
Have I? I have brought that book to the beach every single time I've been to the beach, and I've maybe got like 100 pages left. And
I've read it 15, 20 times. I wish I was joking when I said that. It's humiliating how often I reread that.
But that has come to mean nothing because you are so generous. You reread everything 50,000 times.
Not everything.
That's the better metric. Can Sunny read it once?
Baby, it came out in May. It came out the 7th of May, I believe. Like, it has been out for like 9 months.
You've been pregnant with that book.
I read it 3 times in the first week. But baby, I was also... I was traveling. I needed something to decompress at the end of a very stressful week.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad it was there for you.
Thank you.
Whatever you're dealing with. But to be honest, like maybe I'll read the first one. I don't really mind. I actually, if anything, I'd be more interested to read the first one to see in what capacity Jackson appears, how often he appears, and if Delilah appears. But with that said, if you look at my Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars, but that's only because famously Goodreads doesn't allow half ratings. I am like, I froth a 4-star read. I actually almost prefer a 4-star read to a 5-star read. But I would truthfully, and if Goodreads allowed this, I would give this book 3.5 stars out of 5.
Okay. I think that is similar enough, like kind of rankings, a half point between us. How about we talk quickly about like the online discourse about this book, because it has not actually been released yet, which is a really hard thing to talk about because, we can't really rely on the 4.44 Goodreads ranking that's currently there because that's mostly just people rating it 5 stars before it even comes out being like, oh, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Which I agree.
It's an anticipatory
5
rating.
Stars. Yeah, exactly.
Which is still promising.
Oh, yeah.
Hype, but
But yes, I think one of the more interesting parts of the discourse I saw was my favorite book creator, Eden. Oh, I love you. I talk about it very frequently. She's the most incredible book creator. She did a great video talking about how this book took a lot of the tropes that she swears up and down that she does not like, and then kind of flipped it on its head and actually made her like it. And it shows that when a trope is done well, you can actually like it and you can really enjoy the story. But, sometimes your preferences is actually just because you've seen it done poorly. Yeah. And I know a lot of people, have their opinions on the accidental like pregnancy trope and hate reading pregnancy books. Weirdly, some of my favorite books are that, but I don't like the trope as a whole, which is interesting because I wouldn't say I'm a fan of that as a trope, but still, like, I love Tucker and Sabrina in such a spoiler. Spoiler alert, I love Tucker and Sabrina in Off Campus, and I also love Ready or Not. Those are 2 of my favorite books ever.
Cara Bastone.
Yeah. I love Cara.
Should we name what tropes we think are in this book?
Oh, yes. I've actually written some down. Maybe I have. Where are they? Okay, yes, here we go. So we've obviously got There's Only One Bed.
I hate that
My favorite. I love it. My only issue is no one made the meta joke, though. Someone needed to make the joke where it's like, oh my God, you'll go there and there's only one bed.
But I think it doesn't make sense for them to make that joke because they're not depicted as literary people.
Not them, but someone. I think even his sisters could have made that joke because I feel like they're aware enough of being online discourse.
That's true. They're 15-year-old twin girls.
Yeah. Honestly, I think because they do it in Yours Truly, there's like a reference to like, oh my God, tell me when you get to the There's Only One Bed scene. Like, I love a meta commentary famously, as I've already said today. Roll the clip. But I think that that's the one thing that was missing in this. I love it.
If it was going to be from anyone, it was going to be from the girls. BK Borison is also using the grumpy ex-sunshine trope as well. She's also using Well, again,
enemies to lovers, but like
it's more misunderstanding.
They just don't like each other. It's like dislike to lovers.
So, okay, I'm going to say something about this, circling back to enemies to lovers. I don't know why I'm feeling particularly musical and particularly like,
oh no, Sonny's going to sing again.
But I think what is frustrating to me about enemies to lovers when it's done poorly or when it doesn't commit to the bit, and I feel like this isn't necessarily done poorly, it's just not really enemies to lovers, right? Is like in this instance, the extent of their relationship before they are asked to come together to cover this snowstorm, right? Is that she's a bad parker, he's an asshole about it, who, yeah, he could be annoyed, but he refuses to move anywhere else. He leaves passive-aggressive Post-it notes on her car. She spills things on him, which, by the way, sorry, let's talk about being clumsy or accident prone as a trope. If it wasn't a trope before, it is now, because the way every single chapter this girl was falling on her ass was crazy.
I know.
Actually, that was a trope in Twilight, Bella Swan.
I was about to say, like, I think that these authors grew up too much with Jennifer Lawrence, and now that's kind of like seeping into their work where clumsy means relatable. And I'm like, no, it's not a shorthand for relatable.
It was concerning.
Yeah, I'm like, baby, she trips on nothing.
Yeah.
But like also my sister does that a bit. So I can't really judge that much because I have that person in my life.
I'm very clumsy. And I imagine some of that is exacerbated by ADHD. But when this girl isn't just clumsy, as you will have read, she is falling. She is taking other people down to the damage. Anyway, so that is like the basis, understandably, between them. Like, I don't think we really led to believe they've ever had like a full conversation.
No.
Which is why when they get to know each other, they switch gears so quickly because all it took was them getting to know each other.
It's like page 110, I think, is around the time of their car ride. And that is the time where they're like fine with each other, more or less.
That's why to me it wasn't believable. And I also just think, like, I'm sorry. This is again back to my impatience and maybe my attitude problem. If I was in a situation where this guy kept leaving Post-it notes on my car and like we clearly have this, like there's enough of an like, it's not even unspoken. Like when they first start interacting with each other, right? They kind of both acknowledge that they both vex each other, right? So like it's not even, it's unspoken in the sense that they haven't addressed it, but they both know and own the fact that they dislike each other, right?
Yeah.
I would be like, either you want to fuck me or you're fucking with me. Either way, knock if you buck. You know what I mean?
I was about to say, I thought you were going to go down the route of like they don't like each other. Like if they're doing this and he's an asshole and he's a bad person, I was about to be like, Sonny, that is quite literally your dream. I just would be knocking on that
door being like, girl, what
get in
is
the back
it?
seat
Which
now.
One? Well, which one? Like, are we punching on or, you know, or something else?
Are we knocking boots?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Boots.
Either could work, but I'm trying to know what this is because to me, otherwise, this action just feels so ridiculous. Who has the time and the energy? You know what I mean? Like, let's commit.
I want a romance hero that's so much more like you in terms of like.
No, I mean that not because like I'd be so good.
I didn't even need to say anything. I just need a romance hero like you. I
because
didn't describe it, but you believe it. You were like, yes.
I love romance, and yet I do not allow romance to happen to me.
Yeah, because you don't allow for timing and yearning. No. You do not allow for that shit. Now it just sounds like us getting into a fight in our daily lives about Sonny's dating life.
I'm trying. I need to quit singing, please. I've reached my singing limit. Yeah, to me, I'm like, come on. If you can literally, maybe it's also because I don't make enemies without first trying to get to know them because my hating is informed. You know what I mean? So I think I see myself
You're
a lot.
Educated hater.
I see a lot of myself in Delilah.
Oh, can we just say she's our love child?
Yeah.
The overdependency on junk food, the pink Volkswagen Beetle, my dream car, her favorite color.
Yeah.
Curvy girl representation.
Yeah. Unruly hair. Gets stopped every time she goes to do anything because she's like making friends and having conversation. I think if many of my friends read this as part of book club, I think they'd probably think of me.
Oh, yeah.
Equally, I did see some of myself in Jackson, which is, and I think that's because there's actually more similarities between them than they think. They're just like yin and yang, but still quite compatible.
I believe their love story. I really do. And
totally.
I think it makes complete and utter sense why they fell in love with each other and why they work as a couple because they are both very broken people. Broken by sort of like the same thing.
They have very similar trauma.
Oh,
they just responded to it differently.
But she responded to it in a very feminine way, and he responded to it in a very masculine way, where she turned on and had to smile through pain to make sure that she's likable to everyone, whereas he then was like, I'm going to be a provider, I'm going to take away emotion. I feel like they're kind of almost victims of gendered reactions to trauma.
Without divulging too much, having had a similar experience in my own life, it's so funny because I have seen, people respond and either or like both make sense to me. I chose the Delilah route of like, you know, when you experience a degree of like abandonment, then wanting to be the girl that like brings sunshine to everybody, versus like Jackson is really firm in his boundaries. But I would still describe him as somebody who is like, he's not warm, but he's actually so loving and sweet and kind.
Great.
And so, I think I really, really like them. I think they've got such similar trauma. What I would say though, and what makes me sad, is that they experienced similar things, but they had vastly different support networks. You know what I mean? Like Jackson had to rely on himself, which informs how he has responded to the abandonment of his mom and his subsequent parentification.
And at least she had
her grandfather.
And also, it's not as if her and her mum were like on bad terms, actively feuding and, you know, hating her for her life. She was like, no, she just wasn't interested. She just wasn't like my mum. Like she wasn't like, you know, a mother to me.
Yeah.
And she's more or less made peace with that because she had a really great, you know, parental figure in her life.
Whereas Jackson didn't have that. He didn't have anybody. He had himself, which in turn,
worried about his finances. I'm like, 3 people with one paycheck.
Me too. Which in turn makes him be able to basically be like what Delilah's grandfather was to her, to his 2 younger siblings. You know what I mean? So it's in a lot of ways they have like a really similar reference point, but they're quite different experiences of a similar situation. If anything, the real similarity is between the 2 twin girls and Delilah. And I like that they touch on that throughout the book.
And I like the fact that she offered to talk to them because of similar circumstances. I really enjoyed that aspect of it because I think that this book, and I think BK in general, does a really good job at making all the characters in it really vivid. I don't think she ever like overpacks the story with too many characters where you can't remember their names. I think every single character in this is really distinct. Who do you not think is distinct?
Between Gianna?
Gianna
and Maggie.
Oh,
they serve different purposes,
and
there was a lot of background.
Places.
Yeah.
It was women Sunny. Sunny thinks that all women are the same.
Bad things happen when 2 women get together. But no, I think it's just because they had the 2 workplaces and it's like, it was basically like for every employee at one, there had to be the parallel version at the other place.
Definitely.
So it just felt like a little stuff, but it was fine.
Yeah. Speaking of Maggie, here's what I cannot wait for, because famously First Time Caller is Sleepers in Seattle, and Now Back to You is When Harry Met Sally. So we're clearly getting Maggie and the guy that's trying to buy the station, I forgot his name, he was in like a scene. We're clearly going to get them as a You've Got Mail situation, which I rewatched this past weekend. And
perfect.
I know that one will be my favorite.
Yeah.
You've Got Mail is not my favorite.
Yeah, okay.
When Harry Met Sally is my favorite. You've Got Mail is my second favorite. But I just know in my bones that because of the hatred that has been building up for these 2 prior books, it is going to be really
maybe that'll
really
be
fun
my
time.
enemies to lovers feast.
Because at the end of the day, I don't think When Harry Met Sally is traditionally enemies to lovers.
No, like, it's friends to lovers.
And some people say that it is. I'm like, no, it's more like strangers. It's like Strange by Celeste. It's like strangers to friends, friends into lovers, and strangers again. I think that is
I can't sing. I banned myself from singing. Don't tempt me.
Don't make me sing.
Don't make me sing.
Oh my God. Too many
I would
references.
say, you know what? I would say I really want to reject this idea that we should mark a book solely on their tropes. But if I was to say like the kingpin of this book, it is Grumpy X Sunshine. But I would also like to say in defense of Jackson, Homeboy isn't grumpy. He's just autistic.
Thank God. I almost said before when you were talking about like the parking lot, I was going to be like, oh my God, but we can't villainize him for not wanting to move his car. Like he's got rituals and routines. He's a spec.
He's trying his hardest. Like he's really hanging on my thread. He's doing everything he can to maintain the little piece he's been able to cultivate. And so I get that so much. I am like a very anxiously planning person. Yeah.
Like in a similar sense where it's like very much from like a mental health perspective and definitely has OCD, like, you know, compounding that. But I am very much that sort of like anxious planner. I often if I'm like reading a book or watching a TV show, if I'm getting really stressed, I will Google what happens and then I'll keep watching because I don't want to be like caught off guard. And I think that I definitely understand his anxieties in that, and like as a like almost in a way of like a trauma response. I definitely get that part of him and I empathize with him so dearly for that.
And they never say in the book or suggest that he is autistic or on the spectrum.
It's just our headcanon. It's like Henry,
I think it feels very clear.
Well, it's like Henry in Icebreaker series. Like he's like in the Maple Hill series, it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, he's not technically meant to, like they never say it out loud that he's autistic, but then Hannah Grace has said, yeah, of course he is. And like Shane in Heated Rivalry being a known
autistic coded characters.
But both authors have said that they are. So I wouldn't be surprised if BK comes forward and it's like, oh yeah, definitely wrote that with a touch of the tism, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely throughout. But I think that's why I really actually, not the autism specifically, but that speaks to one of the things that I love so much about Delilah and Jackson as a pairing is that like they fundamentally misunderstand each other, and for years that doesn't equate to curiosity or interest. But then once they get to know each other, they have such empathy. What is so funny?
I had the thought, I'm like, it's almost like he's autism, she's ADHD. And then I remember that moment from the Wicked press junket.
Oh my God.
Interview, it's like, you're my ADHD and you're my autism.
Maybe that's what BK said. She sat down with M. Rossiano and was like, you were onto something, and thus the story begins.
Wait, that's actually really terrifying.
Yeah. Maybe that's also part of why.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but that's just where my brain
No, that makes sense. She's as somebody with diagnosed ADHD, she's very ADHD coded.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also similarities in how both of those conditions present and overlap of symptoms. And so I love that, like, it really does not take long for these guys to sit down and be curious about one another. Like,
they just need to talk.
They just need to talk, which I guess why I don't relate, because I'd be talking and asking questions.
Famously.
But they haven't, I guess maybe they haven't had the opportunity to do that before. But in saying that, I think pretty early on, you've got both characters confessing to liking one another, and then you look at the stick boy and you're like, there's like 300 pages left. Where are we going to go?
I have a bone to pick.
Pick that bone.
Page 108.
It scares me how you can rattle off page numbers. It's the same way that Ali has the skill where you mention something that vaguely happened in an episode, Effie, because Buffy was going to say, in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Glee or Gilmore Girls, and she'd be like,
okay, give an example. Say something.
Oh my God, no. I'm so scared right now.
No, we can't terrify the listeners on episode 4.
She's into the mystical when she does that.
Okay, so pretty much this is the only thing that I think initially it really irritated me, and I was like, I don't believe this. But now in retrospect, after giving it a couple weeks and 2 reads, I'm like, you know what? It's realistic, but it makes me dislike Jackson a couple percent more. So pretty much, sorry, it's page 107 when it starts, the exchange. Apologies, I was a page number off. I need to be drawn and quartered.
Burn her! Burn the witch! I have a personal score to settle with.
The witch! That's my favorite song in Wicked.
For once, I'm glad I'm heartless. I'll be heartless killing her.
That is the best song in Wicked, and
it's the best part of Wicked for good. Ethan Slater 8. Ethan Slater. Damn it! I said I wouldn't do it. Okay, we've got 12 minutes.
But 12 minutes well spent talking about Ethan Slater, SpongeBob.
Literally.
Honestly, it's been kind of eating at the moment. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
107.
When they're talking about first impressions, and he says like, "Oh, what do you think of me? Do you think I'm hot?"
He was so compliment fishing, but I get it because I do the same.
You do the same, but I'm also like, I don't like that. Initially, I was like, that feels so out of character because they've only just started talking. That he would that he would be already more or less like introducing a romantic element, because I think that's the first
he folds
time
so quickly.
But then in retrospect, I was like, you know what? That's just a man. That's what a man does. You're just a man. It's just
folds
what you do.
Quickly or ask compliments.
Make something sexual really quickly. It makes him more realistic.
He's making it sexual because we see he can be sexual. I don't think that was him being sexual.
He says that he was attracted to her in a turtle costume. Right after, like in that, was he said, "What do you think of me? Do you think I was attractive? Do you think I have a face for radio, or do you think I could like be on screen? Like, what do you think?" That's more or less what the dialogue is. And then she's like, "When I saw you at the coffee shop, I was annoyed because you're really attractive, but you have the personality of a piece of wet cardboard." And he says, "I was irritated when I saw you in the turtle costume. Do with that what you will." And I think the fact that that's, I think, like the first switch up to being like moderately sexual. And I think that in my head, I was like, initially I was like, no, Jackson, you're too awkward to do that. And now I'm like, actually, you know what? He's just a man. And of course a man would take it in and try to make anything more sexual. It just felt to him like it took me out of it as a romance novel and put me into reality, which is not why I read romance.
If you were on Tinder, you'd be surprised it took 108 pages for him to say that. I don't want to question your witchcraft, but I don't remember those being in the same. In my memory, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, I truly think he says it later on.
Oh no, I believe it's the same.
Roll the tapes.
Let's roll the I like that we actually have props right here.
While she's doing that, I'm going to talk about something that I did not like about this book, and it's
I'm at the page. Sorry.
The love hypothesis problem. I didn't enjoy that book broadly.
I've never read anything
enjoy
by
that
her.
book broadly, but one of the things I hated about it was it's like kind of in lieu of almost like the second act breakup or whatnot. Is it second act or third act?
Third act breakup.
In lieu of the third act breakup, it's the idea that there's like this horrible workplace villain. Oh, she's right. Whatever. That's what I get for questioning. I should have known.
Right.
But this horrible workplace villain who, it's almost like enemies to lovers. It's not enemies to lovers, but it's more just like why this unfounded like hatred where again it's like you really have zeroed in on me for no reason. This is so inappropriate.
I agree with that. It feels cartoony.
Yes, cartoony.
And also I thought it was going to go down the route of like he sexually harassed her and then she rejected his advances and then from there they were like, you know, they were enemies from that. I thought that was going to be where the story went. But
this grown man who is past his glory years, but who had his glory years, has just hyperfixated on somebody who was delivering in the best ratings because he is jealous of the success that she is having as a young woman.
It felt cartoonishly evil to me.
And I say love hypothesis because it's ages since I read it. And I read it when I had COVID and a lot of brain fog, which is probably the only way I could get through it. But like, I believe the main
But we're really excited for the film.
Yes.
We're really excited for the film.
Yes.
We have to say, I am...
The guy in it's really attractive.
Lily I
Reinhardt
love you more than life itself. That video of you when you're on set, incredible. We all know
it's so promising. I'm excited.
And the meta-ness of the casting, come on.
Yes, we'll be sat. But in the love hypothesis, I believe the main character is like sexually assaulted by one of the people, or suddenly like a trusted male figure turns creepy. I don't know, but it's just that sudden like, oh my god, like in the background we didn't know there was this villainous thing going on, and it only sort of happens to like show the usefulness or the protectiveness of the love interest. Anyway, that took me out of it. I was like, cartoony is the best word to describe it. Except this is literally like shadows. Like it is, I say omnipresent a lot in these podcasts for some reason, but it is like embedded throughout the whole thing is the presence of Keith, this bum ass boss who...
He's not even the boss though. That's the worst part. He's not even like the head of the station or anything. He's not even like...
Well, he's her boss.
Yeah. But like having that much power for such a little man is hilarious. Having that much audacity. Oof.
Yeah. That to me was just, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think for how much time it took up, it wasn't fleshed out enough and it just seemed silly and just annoyed me. Another thing I would say, and it's a love and a hate, I love that they broadly had such great communication, but it meant that when they like kind of have a third act breakup, I'm like, guys, you've literally spoken about this. It's one thing to be angry that your characters like haven't said what needs to be said. It's another when they've said what they need to say and give themselves amnesia. I was like, you literally like my ego would be hurt. Basically what you get whenever we talk about romance is you get insights into my ego. But my ego would be hurt of like, oh my God, like how many times do I have to prove to you? How many times do you have to prove to me? Like I'm showing you through actions, through words. And to Jackson's credit, he is so consistent and he doesn't operate with an ego like I do. And he continues to show up time and time again. And he doesn't make it about himself. He doesn't go like, oh, she's pulling away. Like, am I not enough? He's going, no, this is the trauma that Delilah has. These are the concerns that she has. I'm going to show up time and time again to be what she needs. And ultimately as a couple, they show up for each other really beautifully. But I will say that like the repetitiveness of the conflict, also how quickly their dislike of each other folds because it is based on misunderstanding, and the cartoonishness of Keith, that is why it wasn't a 4-star read for me.
But I feel like the elements of it that work so well is the banter. the writing. I really enjoy the dialogue between the characters.
Yeah.
The setting was really whimsical and fun. Like the winter wonderland of it all.
Really strange to read it in Australian summer.
Yes, it was. It's 36 degrees today as we're talking about this. It's very much winter Phineas and Ferb vibes. How about we now go into Bookmarked, where we talk about some things of note that we kind of put a bookmark in. I already talked about one of them when I mentioned my issue with page 107 onwards, which I was right about. The pages where I was correct. My other one is the quote from page 272. Love stories aren't stupid, Jackson. War movies aren't automatically better and more serious just because people are like losing limbs on a beach. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Because at times I feel like some people online have been saying that he reads as a bit of like internalized misogyny and like a bit anti-girly and like the way in which he's like, oh, she's so girly, and she like doesn't take her seriously and like thinks poorly of her, doesn't think that she was using the correct like European thing or whatever. He like doesn't think that much of her because she's a girly girl. And so I like the fact that she put him in his place, because it's not like it's not too overt, but it's something of note. So I'm really glad that she did that.
I am both frustrated and relieved that you pointed that out, because I didn't use my tabs when I was reading, and so there were quotes that stuck out and I didn't find them, but that 100% when I read that I was like, yes. And that surmises, I think, a lot of Delilah's journey to be taken seriously. And I love that, like, once he gets to know her, he's really judgment-free, which is beautiful. And I think that speaks to the fact that, like, as much as, like, it's not my favorite love story, I think they're both such beautiful people. I really, really like both of them.
She'd be our best friend. She'd be our best friend.
I'd be in love with him. Like, yeah. I love that. There's a quote that I'm sure probably resonated with a lot of you. It kind of also somewhat read as a little bit of a backhanded compliment, because he was saying like why he resented her, but it was rooted in what he loved about her. And it was something about the glow lamp and how like her light shines through other people. Unfortunately, I can't remember what page that was on. So hopefully by the time this is out, it'll be on Goodreads or you'll remember it.
Do your own digging.
But I did highlight Delilah's sort of concerns around what she has with Jackson. And I just thought it was interesting and speaks to like a lot of different romance books that have like a similar thing of like opposites attract and learn from one another. She says, I need to be careful with this. Jackson wants a vacation from who he is in the real world. He wants to prove to himself that he can let go of all of the rigid structures that hold him in place. Nothing good comes from pretending to be someone else for a little while. But I nod because I do feel it. In this instance, it's the feelings between them. This boundless, yearning, impossible thing, glowing, 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 like all the hidden stars behind the clouds. I can't lie, not about this, not to him. Her.
Remarkable. So now we're going to be heading into our Book Smarties part of the episode, where we'll be getting listeners to be sending in their thoughts, their vibes, whatever they think about the episode. So here we go with that now.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Continue to share your thoughts on Now Back to You in the comment section.
And
feels like a pretty good time to discuss our next book club pick.
Do you want to share?
Yes, I do want to share, because I've started reading this and I'm loving it. Our next book club pick is If I Ruled the World by Amy Dubois Barnett.
It was described as Devil Wears Prada meets Empire.
I love Empire. It's set in New York City. The protagonist is a messy Black girl, a 20-something-year-old. Literally, like, to just give you a snippet so that you do read this. This is part of the prologue. I was a live for the moment 20-something like every other 20-something I knew, until one rainy Friday night in the Krispy Kreme on 23rd Street in Manhattan. I was licking raspberry jelly from the fingers of a very rich, very fine, and very married man when I looked up to see my parents shaking rain off their huge umbrella and laughing. I might have been able to salvage the situation if my date, his trademark salt and pepper locks unmistakable from any angle, had been a stranger to my parents. No such luck. He was my mother's childhood friend from suburban Chicago.
Oh, shit. I actually haven't started reading it yet. Now
read
it. Can't wait to go home and read it.
It is embedded in pop culture references. It speaks about being the other, being one of few, if not the only Black girl in a white industry. It talks about the media landscape. And I think it's already been optioned for a television show or a film.
As it should.
It feels
cinematic even from the descriptions and from the interviews I've read about it. Like, it feels so perfectly positioned to have that.
Totally.
Oh, I cannot wait for this.
I know. I can't wait to get back to it. So
on that note, goodbye. And
now
back to you.
And now back to you.
And now back to you.
You.